Okay.
I don't know what happened, but something with our technology turned us off. Desi and I were in a phenomenal conversation, but it's my honor to be able to bring to you, I think, one of the greatest real estate agents that's in the business right now. The reason why, I mean, the stats are there. Her bio is probably one of my favorites in the world because it's so simple. I want to read it to you. I don't read many people's bios, but I want to read this to you. Our top producer selling over 100 homes a year, runs a small team and has 25% market share in a town of under 30,000 people. She's a hobby farmer. She's a mom of 5. And also too, I got a chance to be able to spend time and see her, to meet her for the first time. She spoke at Real Estate Spring Break in Salt Lake City. And it was amazing because she talked about things that were practical, that were actionable items that you could do today to really change and take your real estate business to the whole nother level. But it wasn't the huge production side. It was just being yourself and locking into that. She's an incredible mom. She's got more animals than most people would ever even dream of. Her dogs ate her chickens. And so it is my honor and pleasure to bring you Mrs. Desi Williams. So let's get this party started.
Achieving, cause we believing it's for certain. We put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting right before your eyes. So it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never know, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
On top of that resume of selling, on this year, you're on pace to sell 130 homes this year. But on top of that, Desi, you are one of the most chill people because we just had a technical difficulty and we had to start the podcast over. And you were like, everything happens for a reason. We're completely cool and we're going. Take me to grandmama, because we were talking about grandma. And she helped you to understand that when you had a dumpster fire, as a lot of us do in our lives, you can make things, work out in your favor.
Yeah. So my grandma had a pretty rough life. She had an abusive husband. She got diagnosed with cancer when she was 28, had to have a full hysterectomy. And then a few years later, she got diagnosed with MS. And so I remember as a little girl just thinking, my grandma's so awesome. Like, she's the best person I know. Like, why would this happen to her? So one day we were sitting on her porch because she's a great grandma, just always super present. We were just sitting on her porch and I was like, Grandma, why would this happen? Like, you're such a good person. I hate that this happened to you. And she's like, it happened for me. And she's like, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. But the good thing about it is all these bad days that I have really make me appreciate the good ones. And if I just had good days all the time, how would I appreciate them? I wouldn't know how good they were unless I had these bad days where I can't get out of bed. Mm. And so that's kind of where my optimistic outlook on life came from. It's like, yeah, bad stuff's going to happen, but if you always look for the positive, your life's going to be so much more fulfilling and so much better.
Well, I think one of the positive things, we were just talking about it, where you guys were living in Orange County and you got into the real estate game. You were bragging earlier too, because you were like, my first year I did 14 homes. I'm just joking with you. No, but you got into the real estate game. And it was kind of like a side project because you had, what is it? Do you have 27 children or is it just 5?
Give or take. It feels like 27 most days.
So with 5 children, you kind of start on this thing on the side a little bit. It starts to go, and then your husband loses his job. The company moves and he loses his job. So you guys are in Orange County and you start looking around at different things. A lot of times people could take that as woe's me, this is happening against me, why did this happen? But you took it and ran with it, grabbed 25% of the market share in a 30,000 person town, and on pace now to sell 130 homes. Like, I love the fact that you're able to do this in real time as opposed to just have a theory, right? How do you explain this to a young kid that's wanting to get into real estate? Because when I look at you, I'm like, damn, I want to sell 130 homes too, Desi. Like, what is the magic beans, Desi? Is there magic beans? Is there a silver bullet? Can I do it tomorrow?
Yeah, unfortunately, no silver bullet, or else I would only do it. But the big secret isn't really sexy. People aren't going to be like, oh man, this is awesome. I'm going to do it immediately. Most people are going to discount it because it's so easy. You just do the simple little things consistently every day. So I hit 20 conversations every day, and I just have a list of really simple things that, like, you make your calls, you follow up with people, you do your social media posts. It's the boring stuff that most people don't want to do. Nobody wants to go to the office and make 20 calls. Like, nobody's excited about that. Nobody's excited about calling strangers, but you just have to put in the work.
Where do you get the 20 names? Like, how does this, because for the person who's not in real estate and for the person who's in real estate is like, oh man, just 20 calls. That's what I need to do. And again, like you were talking about, it sounds so simple, right? It's not easy, but for the person that's not in real estate, like, where do I find the people? Like, do I just, I'm thinking yellow pages, but you're too young for that.
What's the yellow page? No, just kidding. Well, so what I would say is it's all about relationships, right? Everything in life is about relationships. So if I was a brand new agent, my advice would be to sit down and make a list of every single person you know. So think about church. Do you go to church? If you go to church, who do you know from church? Have you ever been to the library? Do you know anybody from the library? Are you part of a bridge club? Who do you know from bridge club? Who's your dentist? Who's your attorney? Who's your eye doctor? And you just go through making a list. Who's your kid's friend, or who's your kid's friend's parents? And you just make a list of every single person you know. And then you have authentic conversations with them. You're not calling them and saying, hey, Joe, little Johnny is Kimmy's friend, and do you want to buy or sell real estate? No, it's like you talk to them about things that are actually happening in their life, and you actually care about what they say.
How do you trick yourself into caring about about what they say? Because there's people that are like, okay, cool, I'm hearing the system, Desi, and then I'm going to go out and do the system, and they'll fail miserably because they don't go into it with their heart. How can you clarify and lead with your heart as opposed to lead with your bank account that you want to fill up because you made this call?
Yeah, so we call that sales breath. Like, people can feel sales breath and they're like, ugh, it's gross. It's like morning breath, but like worse. And so I think you have to actually care. And that it might be a gift you're born with. It might be a superpower. I don't know. But I genuinely care about people. Like, when I'm helping them with a transaction, like, I really care about their outcome. And when I have a conversation with someone, I really care what's happening in their life. And I don't know that you can trick yourself, but what I do know is when you come from an authentic place of love with a servant's heart, I think people can feel that and it attracts them to you. It's like a magnetic energy that people just want to be around that kind of energy because it feels good.
So we make the 20 calls. Take us through this stuff. This is
Okay.
normal stuff for you, but it's like mind-blowing for the rest of the universe that doesn't have 25% market share of their town, and they're not selling the amount. I mean, if we did it on, I would love to look at this on scale, right? If you scaled it, not scaling your business, but just looked at it in comparison, right? A 30,000 person town selling 130 homes. That would be like our population here is about 90,000. So in comparison, that would be like selling 390 homes a year in the city where I live. If you live in a million, how many would that be?
That's wild. I don't know. I'm not that good at math.
So a million would be 30 times, roughly 33 times the size of your town. So that means that a person would sell 3,500 homes.
That's crazy.
In a year.
Wild. So we get some of our calls. We pay for leads. So we do Google PPC. We do some Instagram and Facebook ads and stuff like that. And so those are leads that are coming in. We just barely started this year doing a lot of billboard, and those are like our cash offers where we're trying to get our flips coming in. But we have a database. So at this point, with people, we put everyone in the database. If I coach my kids' soccer team, all their parents, surprise if you're one of their parents, go into my database. And they go in under SOI, right? But they're all in there. So that way I can make sure I stay in touch with them. And I call those people every quarter because you've got to have a system, right? Without a system, you can't scale. And so they go into my sphere bucket, and those people get a call from me every 4 months. They get invited to our client events, community events, our giveaways, all those things. And they like it because you're offering them something. I never ask people for something. I'm always coming from a place of contribution. And then the leads that come in, they're in my like weekly bucket if they're pretty close, or my monthly bucket if they're kind of further out. And so that's how I figure out who I'm going to call. But if you don't have a big database yet, I would say just start with your sphere of influence and add to it. Maybe you need to join a club. Maybe you need to volunteer at the community, but find ways to meet people. And back in the day when I was having a hard time getting my conversations for the week, open houses. If you don't have any listings, find somebody who has a listing, ask if you can host an open house, and go door knock the neighborhood. That's a great way to meet a lot of people in a short 2-hour period.
How do you, I mean, you talked about it earlier, you alluded to it where it was kind of a good old boys club, not only in the town, but also in your industry, right? This happens.
Yeah.
How do you work through that part? Because you've done it so gracefully. Like you know, there's the side that I've seen social and, you know, I've seen the social part where the person becomes the rapping realtor. And it's great for the dude who like did that first. But then you have the guy who's physically uncomfortable while he's doing it, but he thinks it's the trend that he needs to do. And you have seemed to stay away from this thing. You have seemed to be able to say, you know what? I'm Desi. I'm going to work my land and I'm just going to dominate where I am. How did you, like, where did that mentality come from? Because most of the time people are chasing shiny things.
Yeah, I think just being authentic to yourself, it seems like energy flows better when you're being true to who you are. And so if I go to try to be the real estate rapper, like that's not me. And people are going to see right through that. And if someone goes and tries to be Desi, like nobody can be Desi. I'm out of control. Like you try to put a harness on this and you're not going to be able to do that. My husband's like, wow, like stop talking sometimes. He's like, you shouldn't say that. But so everyone just has to be themselves and do their own thing, and just be creative with what feels right for them.
What about some of these events? This blew me away at spring break too, because you talked about it. And I think people are intimidated a lot of times by events because they say, I don't have this huge budget, right? I don't have massive budget to put on this crazy, you know, especially when people are watching shows like $1 Million Listing, things like that. They're like, I don't have the finances to do it. But you seem to not just look like you were so resourceful in this. Can you share it too?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of ways that you can do events for super cheap. So one thing, lenders always want to contribute. So if you can get sponsorships from people, we make a list of people that we refer a ton of people to. So we have a roofer, we have a painter, we have plumbers, we have foundation guys, lenders, title companies, like people who we're in business with a lot, doctors, dentists, because when people move to town, those are all the people that they need to be connected with. So we have a vendor list and we're like, hey, we're going to put you on this list. And then you don't ask for anything until you've sent them several people, right? And whenever you send them someone, you always message them and say, hey, I'm sending you so-and-so. They just moved to town. They've got 8 kids. You're going to do all their dental work from here on out. It'll be great. And so then they're like, man, Desi's always sending me stuff. So then when you call them up and say, hey, I'm doing this event, like, would you want to be one of our sponsors? They're like, of course, how can I help you? And so most of the time our events are free for us, which is great. And then we also promote a lot of local businesses with our community spotlight. And so when we do events, they really want to contribute too. And so, like the Burley Straw Maze is one where we do an event every year, and they can come do the maze and they have a ton of activities there. And we give it free to our clients, current clients, past clients, future clients, just a huge community event. And the Straw Maze gives us a good discount because we give them so much business throughout the year, and we're always promoting them and always sharing their stuff. And so they want to work with us too. So I don't let budget be something that holds you back. And then also don't think you have to do some big grand thing up front. Like you can do a really little thing that's super cheap that people really appreciate.
How about when you're going into, into a new market and the sales breath part, I come back to that a lot. How can a person combat that? And when you were talking about the contribution, like, that you always want to be of contribution, how can a person foster that and work that muscle? Because there's times where you need the money, right? You need to support your family. Early on, sometimes people have a challenge when they're building their business. It's like the thing in Vegas. They would comp like Tom Brady coming in when Tom Brady didn't need to be comped, but the guy who didn't have any money that needed to be comped, they wouldn't. But to be able to get to that level, you got to have some help. What about that beginning stage? How do they still fill their bank account with and still be of contribution?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think one of the things that you should do when you're coming into a new market is you've got to become the expert, right? And one of the things I did when I moved here, which it's good or bad, but I got in with a big time developer. And in Burley, what that means is he did a neighborhood with like 10 houses in it. Um, but I was like, hey, give me a shot. Like, I'm going to do an awesome job for you, and I'll do it super cheap. So I did discount my commission on those first 10 houses. But with the marketing that we did, I ended up helping the buyer on probably, I think, about 7 of them. And so that's kind of how I got my start in this market. And then those buyers, by providing optimal customer service, started referring me to people. And that's kind of how I started building that raving fans.
How do you balance? Like, let's go back because before we got cut off, we were talking about a thing that was mom guilt. And my wife, you and my wife would get along very well. The reason why is because she's an entrepreneur, she's a mom, she's a wife, she's a friend, she's all those things. And guys, when we do all those things, we get high fives. People are like, yeah, you got all these things moving. You could do all these things. As a mom or as a wife or as a friend or just as a woman, there's this guilt associated with everything you do because you're not doing the other thing while you're doing the thing that you're doing. So how do you work that? Because you are so good at what you do and you've seemed to find your lane, your passion, what you're doing. But it comes at a cost, right? Because, right? So how do you work that?
It's hard, honestly. People always talk about balance, and I really don't think there is balance. I think you're either killing it in one aspect while you're falling a little bit short in the other aspect or barely staying afloat. And so, I mean, it does come at a cost, right? I've been super successful in my career, but I've lost friends. Like some of the friends that I first met when we moved here don't talk to me anymore. And it's been hard. It's hard because you thought they were your ride or die. And then all of a sudden, there's a little bit of maybe jealousy. I don't know if it's jealousy. I don't know if it's just different life circumstances. We can't relate to each other anymore because we were all stay-at-home moms before, and now I'm growing a company and growing a career. But it's been lonely, I'll be honest. And one of the things that has helped me, at least with friendships and combating that, is finding different circles to be in. So I believe in paying for proximity. And so when I joined Spring's Inner Circle, I met some of my best friends. They're girls I talk to. We'll have virtual coffee dates. I reach out to them when I'm having a bad day, and they kind of help me boost their moms. They know how hard it is to build a career, build a company. And then on the other side, it's like at some points you have to step back. So the past couple weeks, I've really taken a step back from work and I've focused more on my kids. I'm like, shoot, we only have 3 weeks of summer left and I haven't done everything that I wanted to do as a mom. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to take off all day Thursday and I'm going to take the kids to the pool for the whole day and just be present with them. Or this weekend, I'm not going to do any open houses. I'm going to take my kids and we're going to go to Park City and do the alpine slides. And so I think it's just doing the best you can and trying to let go of that guilt because it's still going to be there, right? You're always going to feel like you're falling short on some aspect, either at work, in your relationship, or with the kids. But just knowing that you're doing the best you can is sometimes all you can do.
So let's talk about the side where I give my wife a hard time this way because she'll tell me, she'll be like, I'm kind of, I feel kind of bad because she does a lot of work with Paul Mitchell and she's actually up on a shoot right now in LA, and she'll be like, oh, I haven't spent that much time, with Maddox, our son, or I haven't spent one-on-one time with my daughter, and she doesn't yell out, I haven't spent that much time with the most loving man that I've ever met in my life that I love more than anything in the world. How do you work that part, right? Because the responsibility of the 5 kids, the 16 dogs that you have, I think you have chicken. You used to have chickens, but your dogs ate them. Talk about that part of it. How do you, like, as a relationship, because I see so many people that will succeed in their business and then they're, maybe they're not as connected with their kids, or if they're connected with their kids in their business, their marriage isn't the greatest. And you seem to have been able to hit all of them. What are some of the things that a person could put in place, or maybe some challenges that you had that we can learn from?
Yeah, so before I got started in real estate, I was a stay-at-home mom and I did all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the yard mowing, all the trash taking outing. Like I felt like my husband's at work, he's my king, he's providing for us. Like when he gets home, I'm just going to cater to all of his needs. Like I don't want him to have to lift a finger. I want him to just be able to relax, enjoy the kids. And as we transitioned, I was still trying to do all of those things while also working 40 plus hours a week, while also doing everything else. And it came to a breaking point one day where I walked into the kitchen and I just lost my mind. I just went off, right? Like a crazy woman, typical crazy woman. And I just like, I can't do it all. Like nobody's effing helping me. Just, I had a little breakdown, right? But it was a good thing. And I'm happy it happened because we were able to sit down and have a really deep, meaningful conversation on what changes needed to happen in order for me to survive. Because I was like, I'm going to be in a mental institution in about 2 weeks if we can't figure out how to kind of like make this go. Because I can't keep doing it all. And I feel like a failure when I'm not. And so one thing, my husband started cooking dinner almost every night, and he makes breakfast almost every morning. We split the yard work. We hired someone to clean the house, and I have to take care of my animals because he wasn't on board with those. I got him as a surprise.
All of them, even the 10. You have 10 cats or something like that, don't you?
Yeah, unfortunately, the
Did
cows were the worst one.
Did you get the cats before you were married or after you were married?
So we just got them. Tyson's cousin brought them over for a birthday gift for our son. Wasn't that nice of her? It started with 2. Unfortunately, they were a boy and a girl, and I didn't know the difference because I'm pretending to be a farmer. So, yeah,
I was about to say, because if you had 10 cats before you guys were married, I don't know that the marriage would happen.
No, he's not a huge animal lover.
Oh, really?
So
And how'd you get the cows? How'd you get the how'd you get the cows surprise? Like, how'd that happen?
Well, so I like accidentally bought them. I saw them; they were a good deal. They're the furry Highland ones with the horns. They're freaking cute, and it was like $3,000 for 2. That's basically free girl math. And so I bought them, and then my husband had said no to the cows, and I was like, well, probably a soft no. So then I called him one day, it was like 4:45, and I was like, hey, like we need to build a fence tonight because like the cows are gonna be here around like 5. Like, do you have time to build a fence really quick? He's like, in 15 minutes? No, we can't build a fence in 15 minutes. So long story short, we had to build the fence while the cows were being unloaded from the trailer. And the fence is not very good because they get out almost every day.
Can you can you talk about? You said a soft no. How what's the components that reside in a soft no or help you to decipher? Because as a man, I know in my marriage not to translate things. I know I can't, like, I'm supposed to. My wife thinks that I should. Like, when she looks at me and maybe she's mad at me, I should know that she's hungry and exactly the type of food she needs to eat at exactly what time. But how do you decipher the soft no?
Well, I sent him a picture and I was like, aren't these so cute? Like, we should buy them. And he was like, no, no cows. And I was like, okay, perfect. I'll just get them and then I'll ask for forgiveness later.
Do you use this in business also, a soft no?
No. Sometimes, maybe a little bit.
How
I
do you know
mean,
how do you know when to be resilient? Like, because they always say, like, be resilient, push through. But there's some times where you shouldn't push through. There are times with my wife that I just shouldn't, like, that no, I should just, let it stop. How do you decipher when to push through and when to take it as a no?
well, with clients, usually when they say no, it's their first line of defense, right? Because you're calling them, they don't know you, they don't like you, they don't trust you. So they're always going to say no. So what you do is you just dig a little bit deeper. And it's like, well, if you could wave a magic wand, like, would you stay in your current house? Like, do you love it? Love it? And if they're like, yeah, if I could wave a magic wand, this is exactly where I'd be. I feel like that's a pretty solid no. So then we still follow up with them till they die. We follow up every month or two and just say, hey, like, it's probably not for you, but like, here's this house that just came on. Do you know anybody who might like it? And eventually they usually will say, actually, yeah, I think we're ready to move. But then other people, when you say like the magic wand, that's one of my favorite things that I say. They'll be like, well, actually, if I could wave a magic wand, I would have a 5-bedroom house on this many acres. And so I think just digging deeper and knowing what questions to ask. With your spouse, I don't really have any advice for that. I don't know.
Yeah, you took that as like, here's cows, no. And I'm just thinking, what part, that's my pops, growing up, he would be like, what part of no did you not understand, boy? Like, that, Desi, that was a hard no. That was a hard no from your husband on the cows. But you got the cows. Do you name the cows?
Yeah, so we've got a cow named Bessie and a
Okay.
cow named Mabel.
Okay.
And we didn't name the baby though. I don't know why. Like, we have a baby
You
and
got
we just
three
like haven't.
cows?
Yeah, we just call it baby.
I thought you got two cows.
Well, we had two. Then I surprised him again. I took him to get bread.
And you went to get bread and you brought home another cow.
Yeah. Well, 9 months later, popped right
Did
out.
you bring this in your truck? I mean, because it was a baby. So were you able to put it in the truck and bring it home?
Well, no. So we took the cows. They got impregnated by a bull. Then we brought them home, and then they had the baby at our house.
Ah. Did you
And one
surprise
only
him?
one of them.
Did you surprise him with the bull?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he didn't know about the
He didn't know.
breeding.
Is there anything right now that he doesn't know about that's actually going to happen to him in the next couple of weeks?
Oh my gosh, you asked me for permission for any question, but that question.
Is there anything
uh,
is there anything on the horizon right now that we can break an exclusive to?
so someone offered me 2 free ponies. Like, they're free. How do you say no to that?
That's
But Hayes
basically them
12
paying you.
right now. I know. But he did say no on the horses, and I do feel like that's a hard no because he was like, if you bring home any more animals that we have to take care of, then you're going to be sleeping outside with the animals. So I feel like that was pretty hard no, pretty black and white.
I don't think he'll
But
do it. He would not put you outside. I'm sorry.
he
Like,
might not even notice 2 ponies. Like, who would even notice those?
I know you should. I think that we should run a poll and see what the people think, and should you just go ahead and get the ponies?
Let's do it.
I
I
think that
think
you
that's the
should.
only way to break this tie.
I think that you should. So how do you not look from a limited mentality when, you have 30,000 people in your town? Most people would say, I've only got 30,000. So that's the reason why I don't do X. But you think about it the opposite way, right? How can a person work that muscle?
That's a good question. Yeah, because I see it and it's like, well, 450 homes sell in our market every year. And so I'm just going to sell all of them. Like, why wouldn't somebody want to work with me over anybody else? I'm going to provide them the best service possible. And so I think just looking for the opportunity in everything. And one thing I would recommend is journaling. I love to journal. And so I have a gratitude journal where I write 5 things I'm grateful for every day. And some days are hard, right? And so you've really got to look for something you're grateful for. And I've done that with kids. There's a certain kid that sometimes I have a hard time with. And it's like, I don't really like this kid. And it's terrible to say that as a mom, right? It's like I love him, I love the kids so much. I won't say if it's a boy or a girl, but it's like they are hard for me. And I noticed I've done it with my spouse too. It's like you get 7 years into the marriage, and it's like, man, did I make the right choice? Like, I don't know if I like this guy anymore. And so when you start writing down 10 things every day that you like about that person, you have to start looking for the good instead of looking for the bad. And what I've noticed is the bad just kind of disappears.
Just for the note, my wife has never had that thought about like, should I have picked this guy? She has never, like, to my knowledge, you know what I mean? Like, she has always woke up every day super grateful that I'm next to her, and that I say nice things, and you know, and I'm still in that. I'm living in that right now. So I wanted to put that out there for the record. Yeah.
Good.
Maybe I'm just encouraging myself here, Desi. Do you feel that, or do you feel that that's just absolute truth?
I feel like it's genuine, man. Who wouldn't want to wake up to you every morning?
I feel like I am being authentic to myself right now in saying that my wife has never questioned in the 16 years.
Never,
And
ever.
she always seems to feel that she made the right decision. That's the way that I feel every day. Like I believe that that resonates with her.
We'll have to ask her after this show.
Now, Desi, could a person? I said it before. I don't know if I said it on the one the recording that died out on us, but I believe that your principles can be used in a small market, a medium market, a large market, an extra large market. Is there any place where what you're doing wouldn't work?
Maybe if there were no houses to sell, like Antarctica. I don't know if there's things there. Do people live there? But if people live in houses in your market, then yeah, the stuff I'm doing is going to work there.
If you broke it down into maybe like kind of five things that a person could do. And we did this, I was in the professional beauty industry for years. And for me, it became a very simple process because of the systematic way, right? So there was 3 things for us: timing, technique, entertainment. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you were fast, you had great technique, and you could entertain someone, you had the holy grail. If you were slow, you were the stinky kid, because there's a lot of people in businesses that are just slow and inefficient, and they think that the technical aspect of them is going to make up for them being slow, and it never will, because you'll always be susceptible.
Yeah.
If you were to break it down kind of like, in a couple of points, what would those points be for a person to be successful in the real estate market?
So I would say number one is consistency. So be consistent in your daily activities, right? Get those conversations every day. Um, I would say a CRM would be really important. Systems. Okay, so consistency, systems, and systems includes like your transaction to close, your CRM, how you follow up with your database. And then I would say raving fans, like providing optimal customer service so that people get up out of their chair if they hear somebody talking about real estate and like sprint over and mention your name. Like, hey, I heard you talking about real estate. Like, you have to use Desi. I'm going to stand here till you call her. And
What's
then
the
the fourth thing,
difference with Desi? Like, what's the difference with Desi when you're talking about it and you're saying that customer service side? Is it my pleasure? Like when you leave, shake the hand. I mean, what are the little things that Desi does that makes a person want to jump up and run across the room?
so I would say, well, first thing, like we do these little surprises throughout the transaction and they're so fun and people just like lose their mind and they're not hard and they're not expensive. But when someone goes under contract, we send them cookies and a balloon bouquet. And it's like, congrats, your offer was accepted. We're so excited for you getting into your new home. And then we kind of talk about next steps with them. Once the inspection's over with, we usually send them like a pizza gift card that says, it's super cheesy, no pun intended, but it's like Pizza Hut delivers, we do too. And then in that letter, we actually ask for referrals. And then we'll send them like a moving box package. And then at closing, we get them a super custom gift. Like one time someone was like, oh my gosh, this porch would be awesome with a porch swing and these pillows. And so on closing day, when they come to their house, they've got a porch swing with pillows and it's everything they dreamed of. So just those little touches throughout. But then I think the communication piece is huge because I'll be working with, 10 to 20 clients at a time, but everyone feels like they're my top priority. I respond to people within like 30 minutes or less. And I just think that genuine care, I think, is something. And one time a lender told me, he's like, what's crazy about you, and I've never seen it with any other agent, is your clients. Like we do these events and you have like 400 people coming through and you remember their name, you remember their kids' names, you're asking about how Johnny's soccer went. Like you connect with them on a deeper level.
So how can a person too, like, begin to scale themselves? This is a tough thing because Desi, like in meeting you and a person that's meeting you for the first time now, it's like, oh wow, she got this thing, she got this it kind of factor. Like you have that thing, right? I mean, not many people just randomly buy ponies without their, any kind of discussion from their family. I mean, you buy cows without, when your man says no, you just do it. Like, this is just a great thing about you that you're able to do. How do you then transfer that type of knowledge? Because not every Michael Jordan ends up being a good coach to help other people. They're just good themselves. And even Kobe said it, they asked him if he was going to coach. He was like, nah, I'm not going to coach because my playing sometimes won't translate. But you seem to have found a way to be able to translate it. How is that?
So it's hard. I will say, like, sometimes the greatest players aren't the greatest coaches. And one thing that has been hard for me is learning how to train people. But I'm passionate about helping people learn. That's one of my missions in life, is to transfer my knowledge and to give people opportunities to grow. And so I've been intentional about learning how to teach people. And so I listen to a lot of books, and then I watch other great leaders who are training people, and I see kind of what they do that works for them. And I'm like, oh, like not all of that'll work for me, but like this is a good piece. So I kind of take bits and pieces from other great leaders that I observe, and then I translate it into me training my agents or people around me.
So tell me about the market right now, because so many people, like, it's been scary for a lot of people. People, like, rates have been high, inventory has been low. I think it's good because a lot of times it gets people out of the business that weren't really focused on it anyway, because when things are good, everyone becomes that thing, right?
Yeah.
When times are lean, you see the people that are really dedicated to it. But let's talk to two different people. First of all, the person that is in the market to maybe buy, or maybe they haven't bought yet and they're thinking, man, is there a good time? Should I wait? Is there changes with these, with the lawsuit that was happening right during the spring break time, where the commission side, And then everyone just went to social media, TikTok, what I heard. And when I sat with my real estate friends, they were like, honestly, that's a lot of misinformation. What's the real information? And from a buyer standpoint or a potential buyer, what should they know in this market, and what could they do that would help them for the future?
Yeah, that's great. So I would say if you're a buyer, the right time to buy is almost always now. And there are exceptions. I would say the exception would be if you're not planning on staying where you're at for at least 2 years, do not buy. You should just rent. But for everyone else, buying now is the right time. And the reason is if you look at real estate historically, there's no house on the market today that was worth less at any other point. And so if you can commit to living in that house for at least 2 years and you can afford the payments, then you're going to end up being able to build that equity. And we've heard a lot of buyers say, well, let's wait till the rates drop. And the reason that's not a good option is because most buyers are saying the same thing. So when the rates drop, guess what's going to happen? All those buyers are going to flood the market, and then you're not going to get we're having sellers do killer negotiations right now. They're offering 4% concession to the buyer where they can do a rate buy down and all their closing costs. They're giving them a free go, a llama, like all the things, right? So, like sellers are wanting to sell. And so buyers can get in and get a sweet deal on a house right now. And then we've got lenders who are doing a free refinance in the first 5 years. And so there's really no risk because if the rates drop, you just refinance and then you get the lower payment and you're still in a house you love.
What's the biggest myth about the lawsuit that happened and the commission rate and all those things? But before, I want to let you know that Desiree Campbell was super excited when you said girl math. And she also said, if you have to sleep outside, just get a stable.
Good advice. Thank you. Thank you, Desiree Campbell.
Yeah, Desiree, her husband isn't going to like you that much, though. Her
Yeah.
husband is going to be like, now I got 2 ponies, I got 3 cows I didn't know about. Are there llamas? You said llama, so it's on your mind. Is llamas on your mind?
Yes, they are. They're so cute. They're so fluffy. You just want to squeeze them.
Has there ever been a llama that is worth less today than it was before?
That's a great question. I haven't even priced out llamas. I just like looking at them on TikTok.
You're probably going to get them for free. You're going to get them for, or what you call free, which is $3,000. That's basically free. So, but take us to this, take us to the lawsuit part. Everyone freaked out during this time, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, the game is going to change. Then I sat with people who actually understood it, and it was like, what's the reality?
Yeah. So if you're educated, then you know things aren't going to really change that much. Like we've had sellers be like, oh, so now I don't have to pay the buyer's agent. I'm like, well, you could choose not to, and you always have been able to choose not to. It's always been negotiable. Never have you ever been required to pay the buyer's agent anything.
Okay.
Like, so I don't think anything's going to change. I think as agents, the best thing you can do is prepare yourself and help people understand why they should hire you, because something that is changing for buyers, you're now going to have to sign a buyer's representation agreement with an agent to even start looking at properties. So before it's like, hey, I'll show you 10 properties or whatever. And then when we write the offer, we'll sign a buyer's rep or whatever. That was like an option that you had. Now you don't have that option. Now you've got to sign something up front, whether it's a 1-day contract, like there's a couple different options. But if you don't sign that, you can't go look at houses. And so as an agent, I think it's going to be important to tell those buyers, like, this is why you should choose me. And we've been coaching our agents on their value proposition for the past almost 6 months because we knew this was coming. And the papers are here, like they're out today. We had a meeting on it this morning going over all the new paperwork and stuff. But as a seller, things aren't going to really change. You're still going to want to pay the buyer's agent, because if buyers are looking at your house and this other house, if one's offering the buyer's agent commission and the other one's not, then that's extra money that the buyer is going to have to come up with out of pocket. And they're already coming up with their down payment, their closing costs, and all the things. And so adding on a buyer's agent commission to that will make home ownership unobtainable for some people if you as the seller don't offer it out. So it's like, do you want to sell your house or not like.
What about the fact that, because again, there's myths, right? And it used to be back in the day, this was before you were alive, Desi, because I'm a lot older than you. I could be your grandfather in Utah time. Um, so people in Utah got that one. But sometimes people will like say that, oh, technology is going to take over my job, or, I'm going to lose my job because of this. And this has happened in the real estate side too, where there's the Redfins or the Zillows or the things like this. But you seem to not be fazed by it, but you actually utilize technology, but you don't rely on it. How have you been able to do that part? Because there's so many people that are like, oh, well, now that there's technology, I'm just going to basically spam all of my guests, right? So from my CRM, I'm just going to spam them all. And it's just automated and there's no touch point behind it. But you have found what I believe, and this is the reason why I think that every person that's in real estate right now should spend time with you, should be coached by you, should get into proximity with you, not being a consultant as far as buying farm animals, but in the real estate game. Because husbands will be mad at me for that if you started a coaching business on how to acquire farm animals without any communication with your husband. So
I would say, yeah, some of the old school agents around here have seen technology as like, they're like, no technology, we won't have any part of it. But I think as you embrace it, you can use it as a tool to help you elevate your business and help you grow and do more. Because like before I was using like a checklist that was on paper. Now I've got one that's automatic. So I think it can be a tool and I think it can be something awesome and use it as a huge asset. But I also think that you still need to have that human element because that's what's going to make you relevant. They've got some places in Utah where they have a lockbox and you as a buyer can sign up somehow and then you can go access these people's home without an agent, which to me is like crazy. And I don't know if they're still doing it, but it was a thing for a while. And so as a buyer, like you think, oh yeah, I could go buy the house myself. But it's like, well, do you know to ask for a septic inspection? We had a client, I was helping them, and then they were like, you know what, I'm going to buy this for sale by owner. They weren't offering any compensation. The buyer didn't want to pay. So they went and bought the house without me. Well, we sold the house about a year and a half later. Come to find out, they didn't have the septic pumped and the septic tank was bad. It was a $15,000 mistake. Whereas if they had an agent and an expert that knew to ask the right questions, they would have been protected and the seller would have covered that before. And so I think just being the professional and knowing what you're talking about when you're dealing with people's most expensive asset is what's going to keep you relevant as technology continues to improve and innovate.
I think it's incredible. It's incredible too because I just had a episode of the podcast the other day. And we called it "Work Your Land," and it was, this. I was so looking forward to spending time with you because, Desi, you're an example to me of working your land. Like not saying, oh, when I get to this point, then I'll be able to do this. It's just like you just work your land and you dominate your land. I mean, I don't know any other person in any other market that has 25% of their market share. I mean, that's massive, to be able to have it. But when you were talking earlier, you were like, well, if there's 400 some odd homes, why don't I sell all of them? So you're going for 100% of the market share, which I think is amazing. Tell me if any of these stand out to you, and if they do, elaborate on them. When you work your land, you stay out of debt, personally, professionally, spiritually, and financially. When you work your land, you get little breaks, consistency, and diligence. Those things will be there. When you work your land, you won't be lazy. When you work your land, you'll do right, even when you don't want to, and even when the result that you want doesn't happen. Work your land.
I think that one.
Okay, tell me why.
Because people don't want to do the work. And if you want consistent income and you want predictable income, you've got to do the little things, even when you don't feel like it, even when you don't want to. My grandpa used to say, pull up your bootstraps and get to work. And the thing you're dreading is usually the thing you just need to get after and get it done first. So if you hate making your calls, get to the office and do those right away. Don't let yourself get distracted, because any little thing that comes in is going to be better than making those calls. Like, well, maybe I should clean the toilet first before I start my calls, right? But you just got to go in and get it done.
Do you think that this relates to, like, you know, one of the things that you don't like is that you don't have ponies. So go and do that first so everything else will fall in line.
Yeah, if I get the ponies, then everything else is just going to stack right up and go just how it's supposed to. My husband's going to find you, and he's going to.
No, I like your husband. I'm trying to be the voice of reason here, Desi, is what I'm trying to do. In this thing also too, the work your land. And again, like, this whole thing was you. Like, it was an example for me. And this was written 2 days ago. So this was on August 6th, right? The next one was focus, truth, kindness, discretion, slowing down, and always honoring your whatever it is that you're doing. If you work your land, you'll stay away from comparison. So just work your land.
And I think that's huge, because comparison's the thief of joy. You can compare yourself all day, and I think that's something in a small community that people do get stuck on, is comparing, and then they get jealous, and then they get mean. And it's easy to look on someone's social media and be like, oh my gosh, they have a boat, they're going on all these fun trips. Well, what you don't see is their marriage is falling apart in the background. What you don't see on social media is that one of their kids is suffering from severe depression. They don't post that stuff because they don't want people to see the authentic truth. And so I think if you can just stay in your own lane and compare yourself to yourself and be better than you were yesterday. My goal is 1% better every day. So yesterday I failed as a mom, but today I'm going to do better. I'm going to be intentional about loving on my kids. I'm going to be intentional about giving each of them an extra hug that I didn't give them yesterday. I'm going to be intentional about not raising my voice over the little things.
When's the last time you failed as a mom?
Oh man, I would say I fail often as a mom. I feel like I really fall short a lot. Just last week, my little guy made a mistake. He spilled something all over, and it wasn't a big deal, right? And actually, this was like a couple weeks ago. It was like 2 weeks ago. He spilled like a whole gallon of milk all over a countertop, and it went everywhere. And I was pissed because the cleaning lady had just came that day. And I was like, what the heck? You know, and I blew up and I got mad. I cleaned it up. But last week, before he went to his grandma's house, a similar thing happened. And I remembered how crappy I felt going to bed that night, the last week. And so when he did it again, I was like, he was scared, and you could see it in his eyes. He's like, Mom's going to blow up. And I was like, you know, bud, accidents happen. Like, I'm sorry how I reacted last time. That wasn't an appropriate reaction. Like, who hasn't spilled a gallon of milk all over the floor? Like, everyone. It happens to everyone, right? It happened to you twice because, you know, good for you, bud. It happened to you twice. I was like, well, let's just clean it up together. And that experience was so much better. And he gave me the biggest hug afterwards. And you could just tell, like, I mean, that's the kind of mom you want to be, right? You want to be the kind of mom who teaches out of love. And you don't want your kids to want to obey you out of fear. They want to obey you out of love. So
how do you transfer this? This has been the holy grail question. My buddy Will and I were talking about it recently, and your passion, your success in your business really stemmed, if you look back at it, from a challenge, right? You guys were in Orange County. You had the challenge. You were kind of figuring out where to go. You choose a small town, which probably at the time, right off the bat, wasn't your first thought, right? Okay.
no,
But it's born of challenge, right? And then we work our tails off to be able to create a life that when we spill the milk, that our mom says, oh my gosh, everyone spilled the milk, as opposed to smacking us upside the head. But most of the time, the story of the Desis that we hear, the success started from a smack upside the head and having to learn those hard lessons. How do we transfer it to the next generation when we're not giving them the same foundation? So we're not smacking them upside the head. How do we manufacture this, or is it possible to do that and impart those stresses that we had as kids that caused us to be forged, that caused us to be strong?
That's a great question. I feel like it's hard, right? Because as a parent, you want to give your kids all the opportunities that you never had. You want to give them a better life than you ever could have dreamed of. But when you give and give and give, you're actually taking from them, and you're not giving them the foundation they need to be successful in life. And so, something with our kids is we make them work. Like they have to work for stuff. And so, we said, hey, we'll pay half for a car when you turn here in Idaho, you can drive when you're 14 and a half. Side note, but we'll pay for half of your car up to X amount, but you've got to earn the money to do that. And so my daughter, she's 14 and a half, and she saved up her money and she bought a Jeep. It was 5,000. So she paid 2,500. We paid 2,500. Our son wants a MacBook. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. He's like, well, can't you just buy me one? Like, you're rich. And I'm like, I could, but I'm not going to. You can buy your own. He's like, well, how do I earn money? I'm only 12. And I'm like, I don't know, be creative. And so he's learned ways to make money. We got in a car accident, like it was about 6 years ago, and it was a pretty bad one. And some of our kids got settlements. And so they each got about 10 grand. And so they wanted to take it. And I was like, well, you could take the money. It's yours technically when you're 18. Or we could grow the money. And so we gave each of them an opportunity to invest. We're like, would you like to buy a rental property? If you guys pulled all your money together, you could buy your first rental property. And most of them said yes. One of them said no. They just wanted to keep that money in the bank. But the ones who have been pulling it together have been learning how to invest and how to grow that money. And when we do flip houses with their money, they have to come put in the work. Like they're there chiseling the tile out of the shower. They're there throwing the nasty hoarder stuff in the dumpster. Like we make them work.
Talk to me about the flip part, because this was great. You said that a lot of the leads will come from or that you just ran a TV ad recently,
Yeah.
right? We were talking about that yesterday. And people, when they hear, again, a Desi in real estate selling 130 homes a year, 25% of market share, they're like, damn, that's what I want to do. I just need to get, that's shiny. I'm going to go do that. And then they get their butt kicked, right? The
Yeah.
flipping seems to be the same way. Like a person will be like, oh, if I just flip this house, I just roll in, I just buy the house, do a little bit of touch up, you know what I mean? Put some lipstick on it, and then I sell the bad boy, and bang, 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 I'm making all the money in the world. Is that how it is, Desi?
Pretty much, yeah. There's never any surprises. You never buy a house and then find out it doesn't have a foundation later. Like nothing bad ever happens when you buy it. No, I think it's a lot of learning. And honestly, if you're thinking about getting into investing, I would highly recommend getting some kind of a mentor to partner with on your first couple. Because we learned the hard way, and it would have been easier to learn the easy way from a partner. But I think so. We ran this TV ad, right, and we get so many leads off of it. So we did our first flip house a few years ago, and we did all the work ourselves. It was super hard. It took forever, but we sold it and made a pretty good profit. So then we rolled it into the next one. Well, right now we have 4 going on right now, and obviously we can't do all 4. We can't do the work ourselves with all 4 because we've got 100 cows and chickens and goats and all the things, we can't.
Ponies and llamas on the way too.
Yeah. So we've started hiring out the work for most of it, but we still have our kids help with it. But I think flipping is you've got to be really careful and you've got to know how to analyze the deal. We talked with a client yesterday. They bought a house. They took a mortgage out on it. It was $160,000. Then they took a HELOC on their primary residence and used $40,000 as a down payment. So they used their HELOC as a down payment, had the loan. Their monthly payment on that is like $1,700 a month, and they've done all the work themselves. They've been working on it for like 6 months. So they've been using the HELOC to pay that monthly payment every month. And so they're like, how much could we sell it for? And I'm like, like not as much as you owe. They're like, well, we have to pay taxes. I'm like, congratulations, no, because you're actually losing 15 grand. So let's not worry about the taxes. So we're trying to figure out a way to help them get out of it.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a garage out back. And so we talked to the county if we could convert it into a detached dwelling. And I think if we do that, we'll be able to help them walk away with around $5,000.
Wow.
But if they would have just talked to an expert in the beginning, they overpaid for that house by about $40,000.
Wow. So,
But they bought it without an agent and they bought it for sell by owner.
well, and if
So
you bought it in Idaho and you didn't work with Desi, you're doing yourself an injustice anyway. Am I correct? I said it. You don't have to say it. But I mean, will you at some point give someone a llama for buying the house?
I think I will. I think that would be a really good closing gift. And who wouldn't be a raving fan after that?
Well, and I think that because most of the time you buy llamas in twos. So if you gave one away, then you would just keep one because they're fluffy and you should have it.
And with girl math, then it's free.
Then it's free. And it was you probably write it off too.
Tax write off. Yeah.
It'll work out well. You said something that I want to go back to. You said paying for proximity. Can you hit on that real quick? Because there's a good side and a bad side to that, right? There's the part that is like you got to be very careful. Now, your proximity with Spring, I mean, honestly, like if you're in the real estate game and you don't know who Spring Benson is, you're doing yourself an injustice. I believe now, after spending time with you, if you're in the real estate game and if you're not studying your game, Desi, not trying to be you're doing yourself an injustice. Pay for proximity. Hit me with it.
Okay, so we reached kind of a plateau in our business in our local area. And we didn't have any friends that we could reach out to. We didn't have anybody who was kind of on our level as far as ideas. There was nobody to mastermind with, nobody to collaborate with. And so we started looking outside of our area for people who were doing cooler stuff than we were doing, because what's better than inventing the wheel is just copying something somebody else is already doing, making it your own. You don't need to reinvent it. And so Tyson found Spring and he was like, I think you might like her because she's like you. She's a mom. She's a killer in her real estate career. And so we decided, like, yeah, we'll do her scale up. And now we're in our inner circle. But the biggest thing, like, Spring's fantastic and her team is awesome. But I would say out of that, we've made so many connections with different teams and agents around the United States and Canada that are doing really cool stuff. And if I have a question about something or I have an idea that I want to spin off on someone and just like, is this good? Is it dumb? I've got about 10 people I could call and they'll drop everything to answer my question or help brainstorm with me, which is powerful.
How could a person work with you? Like, because being in the real estate industry, like if I was in the real estate industry and I heard you, I would be like, okay, cool. I want to be Desi's friend. Like how can I spend time with, like, how can I connect with you? I mean, obviously I got to wait until you've milked the cows, run the ponies that you're about to get the, that you got the eggs. Oh yeah. Your dogs ate the chickens. To get through the 17 cats, the 5 children, the husband, the 130 homes that you're selling in your 30,000 person town. How can this happen?
So my husband and I actually just developed something, and it's called Dwell. And it's basically where you get to plug into all of our systems, and it's pretty cool. You get one-on-one coaching and mentorship, but you can plug into all of our systems, and it's not like a monthly fee or an annual fee. It's just like a small percentage of the commission. And so, and there's a cap and everything. So it's pretty much no risk, but our goal is to help agents go from doing like 20 to 30 deals a year, or maybe 10 to 15 deals a year, to that next level. We want to help agents double their business while still being able to maintain a good home life and good relationships with their kids and their spouses.
Desi, do you know Desiree Campbell?
I don't think so.
She just said she's in upstate New York, and if you're ever interested in the area, I would love to chat. So it's funny because even in this time, like I said, when people are listening to you, and I want you to understand, I want to compliment you because you have such a magnetic presence to you, and a place where you make people feel okay. You don't make people feel bad about what they're doing. And I watched this at spring break when you were speaking. While you were speaking, everyone felt at ease with what they were doing, although they all wanted to be better because you were around. This is something that's not very normal, and I want to compliment it at the highest level.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
But you haven't complimented me at all during this whole entire podcast. So the only reason why I did that, because I was fishing to see if, you know.
Well, I truly though, like after I got done speaking at spring break and you came up and you were just like, that was so awesome. I took pages and pages of notes. Like you made me feel so awesome. And just like being in your presence, that's why I'm like telling everyone when my friend Nick was looking for a speaker for NiftyCon, I was like, you've got to have Kelly come in. His energy is magnetic. And just when you're speaking, like I laughed, I cried. I mean, I felt it all. It was a roller coaster. Like you're awesome.
Thank you. See, that's how you fish for a compliment, right? And I want to tell you, like, the cool thing that when you were talking about like contributing to people, connecting with them, always like adding value to them. This for me is not just lip service. I experienced in my life. My family was affected because, watch this, you were sitting in that audience when I got a chance to do the keynote for spring break. 2 days, I don't even think it was 2 days. I think it was the next day I got a call and said, hey, we want you to come to NiftyCon, right? And we want you to come and speak to NiftyCon. You never know who you're giving cookies to at the open house. You never know who you're buying the porch swing for or a llama for at the closing. You don't know who you're sending the cookies and the balloons to, who you could think that, wow, will this really make a difference? It does. And Desi, you've showed me not only in words, but in actions that it happens, and it happens in real time. And I mean, there's very few people that when you scratch the surface, you start to see better things from them than what you see on the outward. And you're one of those people.
Well, thank you.
It's really, really cool. How can we as an audience, like, you know, because I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan. I've been following since I met you. How can we contribute to you? Like, I once said, and I'll preface it this way. Being in the professional beauty industry for as long as we owned salons and we sold them and we moved on. But if this one thing would have been known, just one thing, it would have changed not everything, but it would have changed a lot of things. And that one thing was, if every guest of a salon understood that the number one profit center of any salon is the products that they sell, not the services that they provide. And every woman on earth uses hair products, but 75% of them don't buy it from the stylist or the salon where they actually got their hair done. If the guest knew that, not that they're doing it on purpose and they're being nasty or whatever it was, but if the guest knew that and knew that for the hairdresser to have a greater life, to provide better service, all they had to do was buy the same things that they're buying anyway, but just buy it from them. And it would impact their life in a greater, like an unbelievable way. To put it in a scale, I have a friend who owns 42 salons. I asked him if every person that came in, because everyone uses a shampoo, a conditioner, and a styling aid, right? And I said, what would it do to your business if every single person bought their shampoo, their conditioner, and their styling aid from your place? Do you know the number that he gave me per year?
No, what was it?
$5.8 million per year. And I asked him, what would you do with it? He said that I would raise the salaries of my employees. I would give more benefits. I would do these kind of things. The impact would be so monumental in his business. But most people just don't know, so they don't do. How can we as a community, if we knew this thing, how could it help Desi and her family and your business?
So I would say number one, referrals. If you guys have anyone move into Southern Idaho, reach out to me. But number two, I would say follow me on social media. And if you think that we align, Dwell is really a cool opportunity. And I really believe in it. And I think it can help benefit people's lives. And we have like a pilot group that we're doing with it right now because it's new, right? So there's some kinks to work out. And I never want to promise more than I can deliver. That's really important to me. And so we started with this pilot group, and it's been a rocky start, right? But now I think we're to a place where it's getting pretty smooth. And they're already doing more business than they've ever done. And it feels like you're part of something because you're kind of part of a team, but it's different. So I think that would be awesome if you felt like it aligned with you and it could benefit your life. Let's talk and see if it would make sense.
What's next for Desi? You're on your bio, which I love. I want to read it again because it's just the best in the world. Mom of 5, top producer, selling over 100 homes a year. You need to make sure we update that because it's 130. Runs a small team. I think that maybe we should take the small team out of there and just say runs a team that has 25% market share in a town of under 30,000 people, and you're a hobby farmer, and you proved that. What's next?
So I think next is we really want to grow this Dwell model across the United States. So that's our big goal, is to grow Dwell while still maintaining here. And then this year, I really want to focus on being intentional with my kids.
Okay. How do you work the discernment muscle, and not let hubris take over? Because Desi has been so incredibly successful at what she does. But sometimes in that sense, hubris sets in, and it's like, well, then if I touch that, it'll do the same thing. How do you work the discernment muscle to know which opportunity to take and which one to pass on?
If it's not a hell yes for me, then it's a no. So I feel like you can just feel something in your heart. And if you know, it's just like, it's almost like an extra beat. It just gives you that lift. And that's a hell yes for me. And if it's not that, then I'm not doing it. Not worth my time.
It's awesome. It's amazing. I want to thank you so much, Desi, for being on the show. I would love to have you on more because I want to hear about the 130, and then I want to hear about the 150. But most of all, we want to hear about the ponies. We want to know if the ponies happen. And we know that your man is not going to, we're calling him to the table. He ain't going to put you out. Like, there's no way you're sitting outside.
My next guest will be me in a cardboard box. Just kidding.
I don't think if it would be a nice cardboard box is what it would be. I want everyone to say hello to the newest member of our family too. This guy is named Ziggy. Let me see if I can move him that way. This guy has rocked our world. He's the cutest little man, but he's been sitting on the desk the whole entire time while we've been here and just chilling. I feel like Dr. Evil because I'm just, I got the little guy. I got to make sure he doesn't get on the keyboard. But Desi, it has been an absolute pleasure spending time with you, and we'll make sure that all the links are there for people to be able to connect with you. If you haven't connected with Desi on social, you need to make sure to do it. But also, we want pictures of the ponies and the horses, or the ponies and the cows.
Okay.
We would appreciate that on the social. Can you do a video? Maybe hitting one of your points, but with the Highland cows, like in the shot.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I always love spending time with you. You're one of the most authentic humans I've ever met. And I love it anytime I can be around you. So thank you. Well,
we want to have you on the show more. I'd like to have you on again because we want to continue to be updated and, for people to understand like the real estate game and to understand it from like, in real time and have real education in it, as opposed to, I'm going to give my wife a hard time scrolling TikTok and then saying, you know what I heard. Now, not to say that not all of it is fake, but I would much rather have an expert like yourself, to be able to understand and know from that. So
I'd love to be back anytime.
Well, we really appreciate you. You're incredible. If you have been rocking with the podcast, we appreciate you. Do me a favor and hit subscribe for my son. He's 12, and if he sees more subscribers, then he thinks that his dad is cool. So if you could do that, that would help us out a ton. We absolutely love you, Desi. It's been my honor, my pleasure, and you are officially off the hot seat. Stick around for a second, Desi.
Nothing more on my mind. I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise.